Welcome to this video on Rumi, the poet who transformed souls, chronicling his journey from a medieval mystic to America's best-selling poet. We will explore the life and works of this influential figure. This program is brought to you by the Series of Thoughts team as part of the Literary Education series. We begin with Part 1, The Refugee Scholar, focusing on the years 1207 to 1244, before his profound transformation. Rumi was born in Balkh in 1207. Due to approaching Mongol armies, his family fled, leading to a wandering life that eventually settled them in Anatolia. This displacement planted the seeds of universal longing in young Rumi. By age 24, Rumi was a respected jurist. He inherited his father's role as head teacher at a prestigious school in Konya, which reportedly had over 10,000 students. Yet, despite his outward success, Rumi felt a deep spiritual gap. His soul, by his own account, was still asleep. Rumi was a scholar who possessed everything the world valued: knowledge, position, and renown, but he lacked the spiritual fire that would define his later life. Part 2, The Meeting That Changed Everything, covers 1244, the year of Rumi's profound transformation. In November 1244, Rumi met Shamsi Tabrizi, a wandering dervish. This encounter was the central event of Rumi's life. Shams introduced him to music and ecstatic Sufi sama. The collision was total. Rumi abandoned his scholarly life overnight, moving from a dutiful teacher to a mystic poet. For nearly 4 years, Rumi and Shams were inseparable, sharing an intense spiritual bond that scandalized Rumi's disciples. This led to growing jealousy, as Rumi's son and students resented the influence of the wandering dervish. This was not a mentorship, but a complete metamorphosis for Rumi. In December 1248, Shams vanished, possibly driven away or murdered by jealous disciples. Rumi was devastated, searching desperately before returning home, broken open by the loss. It is said that the loss cracked him open, and that crack became the universe. Rumi's intense grief transformed into an ecstatic outpouring of poetry, resulting in 40,000 verses. Part 3, The Divani Shamsi Tabrizi, focuses on the period from 1248 to 1262, the time of his ecstatic outpouring of verse. This fire of longing produced over 40,000 lyric verses and more than 3,000 ghazals or love odes. The Divan-e-Shamsi Tabrizi is considered one of the greatest works of Persian literature, a monument to Rumi's love and loss. The Divan poems express a voice more agitated and ecstatic than Rumi's later works. They explore the grief of mourning Shams, while also celebrating the discovery of his spiritual mirror everywhere. Rumi would dictate these verses in states of rapture, often inspired by city sounds that sent him into dance. In an act of devotion, Rumi signed most of his ghazals not with his name, but with Shamsi Tabrizi, or Khamush, meaning silence. The beloved and the lover had merged, and Rumi found Shams's radiant voice within himself. Part 4 introduces the Masnavi, Rumi's masterwork, composed between 1258 and 1273. The composition of the Masnavi began with a suggestion from Rumi's scribe, Husam Chalabi, to write an epic poem. Rumi responded by producing the now immortal opening 18 lines, marking the start of his most transformative work. Rumi spent his final years dictating the Masnavi, a 6-volume spiritual epic spanning 64,000 lines. This immense work contains interwoven stories and mystical discourse, regarded by many as the greatest mystical poem in world literature. The Masnavi is sometimes called the Persian Quran, second only to the Quran in importance for some Muslims. It uses parables and anecdotes to reveal a radical truth, spiraling inward toward God rather than arguing for him. The Masnavi explores the paradox of divine love. The illusion of separation from God is the source of all suffering. The Sufi goal of fana, or holy annihilation of the ego into the divine, is the ultimate point of every story. All 64,000 lines aim at a truth only approached through love. The Masnavi contains 27,000 couplets of divine love, a profound collection of timeless wisdom and spiritual guidance. Part 5 covers the whirling dervishes from 1273 onward, focusing on the dance as doctrine. The Sema ceremony, spinning into God, is said to have begun when Rumi, overwhelmed by divine love, spontaneously began to spin in a bazaar. This spontaneous motion was later formalized by his followers into the sacred whirl practiced today. Rumi passed away in 1273. Following his death, the Mevlevi order was established by his son Sultan Veled and Husamuddin Chalebi. The dervishes of this order are known globally as the whirling dervishes, practicing sacred whirling as a living spiritual practice to this day. The Sema ceremony is structured around 4 turns, or salams, each representing a stage of the soul's journey. It moves from the awakening of the soul, through mystic exercise and annihilation of the ego, to the dervish's return to the world, transformed. The dervish's attire is deeply symbolic. The camel's hair hat represents the tombstone of the ego, and the white skirt is its shroud. The act of turning with arms open, right hand up to receive grace, left hand down to channel it, symbolizes the transfer of divine energy to the world. The whirling dervishes embody a living prayer, turning toward the divine in a practice that transcends mere performance. Part 6 addresses Rumi's modern resurrection, exploring his transformation from an Islamic mystic to a global phenomenon from the 1970s to the present. Rumi became a cultural phenomenon in the 1990s when American poet Coleman Barks published free verse interpretations of older Rumi translations. Though Barks did not read Persian, his versions captured an emotional accessibility that resonated with American readers, selling 250,000 copies. Rumi remains the best-selling poet in America, with Coleman Barks' The Essential Rumi selling over 700,000 copies in the US. He outsells revered Western poets like Shakespeare and Blake, maintaining his status over 750 years after his death. Rumi's reach extended into popular culture through celebrity endorsements. Stars like Madonna and John Bon Jovi recited his verses. Deepak Chopra's 1999 album, A Gift of Love, featured Rumi's poems read by actors, cementing his presence in Western culture. Rumi's global influence is undeniable. The Mevlana Museum in Konya, built around his tomb, welcomed 3.5 million visitors in 2019, making it one of the most visited sacred sites in the Islamic world. The modern perception of Rumi is often split into 2, the secular, universalist poet of the West and the devout Muslim jurist and Sufi mystic of the East. This two-Rumist problem highlights the erasure of his Islamic context in many popular Western translations. Rumi's success in the West is due to his universal imagery, emotional directness, and radical inclusivity. He uses everyday objects and experiences to speak of the infinite, offering a spiritual invitation without requiring a specific creed. The translation wars highlight the debate between authenticity and accessibility. Do we prioritize literal translation of the original Persian or free verse interpretations that make the emotional core accessible to a modern, non-religious audience? Rumi's legacy is that of a bridge between worlds. His language shaped literary traditions across Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent. When he died, his funeral was attended by people of every creed, a testament to his universal appeal that persists today. Rumi's enduring power comes from his life story, fleeing as a refugee, being shattered by the loss of Shams, and pouring his grief into 64,000 lines of light. His fire crosses all walls, proving that, quote, "the wound is the place where the light enters you."